you can't just keep throwing more money at people, even if you have the ability to. It just at some point it doesn't matter, and it's the other stuff that matters.
Hey there, everyone. What's going on? This is Kevin, and welcome to another episode of the Managing Partners Podcast. Today, I have a really cool guest coming out of Washington State, just in the suburbs of Seattle area. I got Jason Epstein on the podcast. What's up?
Not a whole lot. It turns out I am a managing partner, so I guess I'm in the right place.
You are on the Managing Partners Podcast. Crazy. I had a great conversation with Jason a little while back, and he's like, yeah, I'd love to come on and blabber and shoot the shit. So here he is. Got him on the show. He's done some really cool stuff, which is just unique and not the norm, especially when it comes to law firms. And so I think it's really cool what he's got to share today. So tell us a little bit about your firm first and kind of your background, and then we'll kind of jump over to some topics about what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm a rare Seattle native. So I was born in Honolulu, Hawaii. My dad was in the Air Force, but we moved here when I was like 1, is where my parents were from. And so I was raised here. I went to college at USC, the real USC, Kevin, University of Southern California, not South Carolina. I had the privilege of being an SC Trojan back before you had to pay $500,000 to get in. And then moved home for a little while, kind of bounced around the job market. Apparently my undergraduate degree in philosophy doesn't open up a lot of doors for employers. So I went to law school, went back down to Southern California, went to Pepperdine University School of Law in Malibu, and was there for another 3.5 years or so. And then as soon as I graduated, immediately came back home. I was not a big fan of Southern California, and started practicing law, passed the bar, bounced around a couple firms and early in my career. And then in about 2006, I think, I met my now partner, Patrick Kang, and we joined up. I joined his existing firm, Premier Law Group, which, as you can see, was established in 2001.
Yep.
And we've been growing it ever since. So now we're up to, I think, either 12 or 13 employees. We have 5 attorneys, and we do 98% plaintiff's personal injury work, and then there's a little bit of plaintiff's employment law as well. Okay. So wrongful termination, sexual harassment, FMLA violations, stuff like that. That's because my partner kind of likes to do that work still, but primarily everything we do is focused on PI.
Got it. Okay, cool story. And I think most of managing partners I've talked to, lawyers, similar background, bounce around a little bit, find their way, go on their own at some point if they make that jump, right? It's funny, I started my company, jumped out of a corporate position and started my firm in 2006. So
okay.
Good year to start a business, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, it sounds like your partner was kind of already chugging along a little bit, but you completed the puzzle, right?
Yeah. It's funny. I remember those early conversations, and Patrick's kind of more of like an old school lawyer. He believed that, hey, look, if we just do good work, people are going to find us, and we'll have more good work to do, and we'll have more, and then that's how we can increase our revenues and stuff. And so it took me, probably a solid year or so to convince him, like, nope, we need to kind of focus first and foremost on bringing in clients. That's the most important thing. And then, you can't do the good work until you got the clients. So pretty early on, we set up a division of labor and responsibilities between the two of us. And it became my job to make sure we had people coming in. And so I took over the management and marketing of the firm.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been, that's the hard part, right? It's always changing, and it's super competitive, and you got to figure out how you can compete when you're a small fish in a big pond. When you got up here, instead of the sharks, we got the orcas. So you got the giant orcas in the market swimming around, and we got to figure out how to carve ourselves out of the space.
100%. I mean, we all want to do good work and do right by people and all that good, but you ain't got no one to work for or help out, then that's not really going to go too far. So yeah, you have to figure that piece out. If you really believe you can help and you're there to help and do a good job, then why not have more people come in that you can help? So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all hear in this industry, we all hear the horror stories about people who had different attorneys, other than us, and then are calling us, halfway through their case. And, you can't believe, I mean, just really the amount of dumbassery that's out there in the lawyer world, and just the things that people are doing and the ways they're messing up people's cases. And so I think we're good lawyers for sure. And so I agree that it's almost our obligation to help people find us, because we know we're going to do a good job and treat them right, and get their matter over the finish line in the best way possible for them.
Yeah, I had early in this podcast, like years ago, I had a lady that was so passionate, and she was doing like civil rights type work, but super small, had a little like teeny like co-work space, and she was just by herself chugging along, and she was just like, yeah, I don't want to grow but I just like to help people, and and like, you really are helping a lot of people. She said, yeah, I'm making an impact when I help this person and that person. And I was like, well, imagine if you could help hundreds of people, thousands of people. And she was just like, she's just kind of like, oh yeah, like,
yeah,
it's like, so she's thinking she's doing good by not growing, because that's not ethical and not the right thing to do, when clearly her passion for helping people could be expanded as she grew.
Yeah,
like a light bulb went off for it, and I wasn't and it's just a conversation. But anyway, hopefully she's doing well these days. But I wanted to get into some of the cool, unique things you're doing before we started recording. You're talking about, well, the major thing is the 4-day work week that you're doing at your firm. Super unique. So I want to dive into that. And then you mentioned something about, something you're just doing, like a cookout at these big apartment complexes, and providing food and things like that, on how that's kind of benefiting your firm and attracting potential clients. So whichever one you want to do first, I'm open.
So let's talk about the 4-day work week. So we know that we don't have the resources to pay at the top end of the wage scale. And especially, Seattle is a pretty high cost of living area. I think we've got some of the highest median home prices in the country. And so, and then, in my backyard, I've got, Microsoft, Amazon, and both Google and Meta also have offices here. And so we've got like this, crush of tech workers that are making, $500,000 a year, doing whatever they do. And so, the wage scale in this marketplace is just fairly inflated. Just given our resources, we knew we were never going to be able to pay at the top end of that. So we were trying to come up with some creative ways to still get and retain top end talent. We experimented during COVID with remote work. In my firm, it failed miserably. It was not good. And so it's like, okay, what can we do? What can we offer people, other than kind of the standard things that people think of that we can afford? And at about that time, I came across an article. I don't remember where it was, but it was talking about some company that made some sort of widget. I don't even remember, but it was a manufacturing, it was like a production company. What they learned was that if they cut their production staff from 40 hours a week down to 32 hours a week, but still paid them for 40 hours a week. And so in that context, there were actually like physically less shifts producing the good. Their productivity did not decrease at all. Like the staff was so much more bought in and so much more efficient in the times that they were working. It didn't decrease their productivity. So I was like, well, hey, why don't we give that a shot? And that's kind of one of the benefits of being smaller and more nimble, is that, you can kind of do stuff like that. So we ran out a program that we said was going to be a 90-day trial for our staff. And basically our guardrails were that we run a modified version of EOS. And so we do a lot of, tracking of different metrics. And so we set each position in the office has certain tasks that are assigned to them through our case management and also one-off. And so the metric was, if anybody has a task that's overdue, we give them, a certain amount of grace period. But if it's past that grace period and it's still overdue, then everybody in the entire office will lose their 5th day off. So everybody they work 4 days, but they get paid for 5. And we have like a system where kind of each of our vertical niches, we can't overlap days off. So so basically to make sure there's coverage on every day in case, something comes up that we don't wind up in a situation where we're like, oh, nobody can help you today. And so, it staggers throughout the week who's gone on what days. What we've experienced is that in the few times when somebody was getting behind on a task, on their task list, and it looked like it was going to be a problem, everybody else in the office stepped up and helped them get their tasks done. So it fostered a lot of teamwork. It has now been about a year and a half. We never went back on the 90-day pilot program, and the staff loves it. So,
wow.
The way I kind of pitch it to people when we have a new hire is, look, you're getting paid for 40, but you're only working 32. So when you do the math, essentially I'm paying you 120% more than I'm actually paying you. Because we say your hourly rate's, 30, it's actually, whatever that math is, 30, 36, because you're not actually putting the hours in to get that. So if you wanted to go pick up a side gig on your 5th day, you could do that, but most people don't. And instead they, use it to just take care of the stuff that we all need to take care of all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a really cool program. And I think first, for people listening, it goes back to though that you have a system you run on. Because if you didn't, I used to see traction books over top of my head. Right there.
Yeah.
Traction.
Yeah.
If you didn't have a system in place and you weren't tracking this stuff, there's no way you'd be able to put this in place or hold people accountable or actually act on it. People would just be off those days and you'd be like, I don't know. So I think that's an important note here that you all are on a modified EOS, which is common. I hear that a lot, by the way. It's a modified EOS. Hey, you're doing it. You're doing something. So I think that's a great thing. If you weren't on EOS or tracking things like that, this wouldn't be very possible, or it'd be probably abused.
Yeah, it'd be like herding cats for sure if you didn't have a way of making sure that everybody was doing what they were supposed to be doing. And I can tell you, just in our business, when we switched over to kind of running on EOS, I mean, there were a lot of positive changes that we noticed right away. And for all the different groups I'm in with different lawyers where we get together and talk, like that's a very common song that is sung, is that EOS or something like EOS has dramatically changed the way they function.
Yeah, super impactful. So yeah, I've talked about EOS a lot on this podcast. I've had a lot of folks that are deep into it. I've recommended Traction and a lot of other books like that as well. But so if you don't know what EOS is, look that up and grab the book Traction or Scaling Up by Vern Harnish, E-Myth, whatever. There's a lot of books out there that can help you with this kind of stuff. So no, I really love what you've done there. And I think you're holding people accountable. And if they don't get their stuff done, then they got to come in the office. So that, and then everyone's helping each other out and saying, hey, how can I help you here? They're probably a lot of behind the scenes stuff. They, hey, how can we get you to, help you do this stuff? So that's really cool right there. I used to work for an engineering firm where we got half day Friday off. So 11:30 you could cut out. And most people didn't always do that because you had stuff to do and you're like, well, I want to get my project done and I'm fine staying. And so I rarely took off that extra half a day. Plus I think it counted as overtime maybe if you stayed the rest of the day. So it was offered, but most of the time people didn't even take it. So
yeah, I mean, that certainly, like, firm culture is important, so like I hear a lot about those places that are kind of that elusive offer they're making that, we have unlimited PTO. Well, but then nobody takes it because, they're afraid to not be in the office for a day. So it's like, we don't want people coming in on their 5th day. Now, obviously, if something's going on, then, they'll come in and, like if we're getting ready for a trial or something, it's not a problem. Everybody steps up and does what is required of them. But in general, I don't love being at work. There's a reason it's called work. I would rather be at home with my family and, doing the other stuff. And I don't think that's unique, so I want people to, I want my staff to really love the firm and think that we're trying to help them get to that next step in their life, whatever it is, and to, have kind of the great life that I've got, as far as being able to kind of, not feel too stressed about work and take care of my family and do things I need to do. And I want that for all of my staff. So we definitely don't want them coming in on the 5th day unless, it's really project based. So
I like that. I like that model though.
Yeah, there's a lot of that culture conversation that goes on all the time about kind of, what we really want for the people that, ultimately are the ones that are making us money,
Yeah. And if you do, even with only 4 days in the office, you're still with the company and the people there more than you are with people in your family. Like, so we're at work way more than we're with our family. So
yeah, absolutely.
And so I love it. I think it's very unique, and hopefully people listening will be like, "Oh, that's something I've never heard of before." Something I've never heard of in that regard. I've heard, there's like the book, like the 4 hour work week or something like that, which seems ridiculous and extreme. But this to me seems doable, right? And kind of like to your story, the article you read, they got the same amount of work done in 32 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those things like, people talk about like, oh, I need a bigger house, and then you get a bigger house and you just fill up the house with more shit that you don't really need or use.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I think work is kind of like that too. Like if if I got to sit here for 8 hours, I'm going to fill up the 8 hours. But if I knew that like my job is task based, and so if as long as I get all of my stuff done, I can leave, then, yeah, I think we fill up a lot of extra time at work that we aren't really working.
Good point. If you tell someone, and I think we have almost 50 people. If you tell someone, hey, you have 4 hours to do this, and right around 4 hours, they'll say, all right, here it is. If you say, how long will this take? Then, they got to figure that out and tell you what it's going to take. But if you give them 4 hours, they're going to take 4 hours.
Yeah. By the way, I just got an email from your Slack channel, and they said that they all heard the podcast and they want that 5th day off. So you got 50 people that are about to riot.
Cut the show. That's why I told Meredith to drop off. I was like, you don't need to be part of this.
Right. You don't need to listen to this one. Earmuffs.
Well, actually, interesting enough, we have this open PTO. That's what we have. It's not unlimited, or we've played with different things, but it's open PTO. So as long as your stuff's done and you want to take off a week or whatever, we just have a process for it, and people take off. The challenge is always like, we were kind of scared, will people not take off and be burned out? And we have one-on-ones every single week with every single person in the company. And so that's the conversation. It's like, hey, you should probably take off soon. Or don't you have any trips you want to go on? Or what's your goals? Do you want to, so it is something that you have to kind of keep an eye on but if you have the right culture, which I believe we do, it's not as a big an issue. I think if you had a company that was kind of, you didn't really have your hands around and the culture was kind of all over the place, it would be a concern to have that unlimited PTO and open PTO because, people just be burning themselves out. So,
yeah. And I think that a lot of law firms actually kind of want that, to be honest. Like, that's kind of the old law model is like, hey, if I hire an associate, that person should be working, 80-hour weeks all the time. And like, okay, fine. That's how it used to be. But, so they say, hey, we have this unlimited PTO or, whatever, but they really don't want them to take it. So it's really an illusory benefit. And, I just don't think that model leads to, long-term happiness. I think back, my dad was a surgeon, and, he told me stories about when he was in med school. So, late 60s, early 70s. And they used to keep them in the ER for 36-hour shifts. And like, they didn't sleep for 36 hours. And back in those days, the pharmaceutical companies would give the young doctors amphetamines, like as samples, so they could stay up for 36 hours. And it's like, like, okay, cool. Like you're getting more work out of someone, but is it really good work? And, are they making the right decisions on the 35th hour? Like, maybe, but,
yeah.
I just think we're better off when everybody, is clear of mind and focused for the time they're doing the stuff they need to do. And then, ultimately does me no good to have you sitting in your seat, not getting any work done. So you might as well just go home.
No, yeah. I mean, that's extreme right there. I think, there's, you want to make sure that people aren't slammed and like running around crazy. Like we have a Slack that we use for daily status. So in the morning, everyone posts, here's what I did yesterday. Here's what I'm doing today. Challenges that I might have. So that way people can say, hey, do you need help? And then your workload, is it high? Is it low? And that way, if it's low, you're like, hey, maybe you can help do some of this other stuff I need help with. Or if it's like extreme, then it's like, hey, you good? Like, so it just gives us like a little bit of a pulse on folks. But I do think there's some camaraderie built where you have that big push, or you're working a bunch, everyone's kind of scrambling and working hard for like a few weeks, and then you're done, and it's like a successful website launch for us or something like that. I think that creates those moments where you're like, yeah, they were busy and that was maybe a stressful point in time, but it's also that you kind of accomplished it as a team, and I think that creates a sense of ownership within the company as well.
No, I completely agree. Like some of the, for my world, like some of my best memories as a lawyer are preparing for trial. But do I want to do it all the time? No, absolutely not. It's incredibly stressful. But like just being in the fight like that. I would imagine it's similar to like people that are in the military, and you've got your buddies that you jump into the fray with. And obviously what we do is certainly less extreme in a lot of ways, but there's that same kind of in the trench mindset when you're in the middle of something.
That's the stories you talk about. I go backpacking and stuff like that with a bunch of guys, and I remember one morning we were going backpacking, getting ready to leave. It was like a 4 or 5 hour drive away to get there, and obviously the forecast was like it's a rain coming. There's a remnants of a hurricane coming off from like the Gulf across the East Coast. And we knew it was going to be raining and bad, but we were packed up. The wives give us the green light. I'm going. I don't care. But I have one, we had a buddy that's like, I'm not going. And so like 7 a.m. we're sitting there ready to roll, and he bailed out. But this trip was like a downpour craziness. We got lost. We were stuck in the woods. Like we couldn't feel our fingers. It took us hours to get a fire going, and we finally did, and had to hang our tents on like a tree limbs because we also forgot the tent poles. So, and then we had some bourbon and we sat around a fire, and that's the one trip that we talk about that guy wasn't there for, and so, and we can just talk about it every time we go. So it's, to me, I think that's those important moments in business to be like, to had versus like protect everyone from never working more than they need to. Because I think that creates a lot of strong culture.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Those shared experiences, for sure.
Yeah, you just don't want that to be too common, so because people are gonna leave. Well, I think it's a really cool concept. I love it, and I think others should be adopting some cool stuff like that. Trying to be unique. I know I hear tons of attorneys and even clients that we can't find anybody. We can't hire an attorney. We can't find an associate that has 2 years experience. And so, like, what makes them stand out? What makes them different? Why would they want to work with you if they can make a little bit more money over here? And I think deep down, people want a good culture and a good place to work more than a couple $1,000 or $10,000 or $20,000.
Especially what I found too is, I think I'm squarely like right in the middle of Gen X. So I'm 50 years old. But what I found is dealing, as I get older, of course, dealing with the younger employees. So at first it was the millennials that I was hiring, and now it's the Gen Zers that I'm hiring. Money is way less important to them than other factors. And so, you can't just keep throwing more money at people, even if you have the ability to, at some point, it doesn't matter. And it's the other stuff that matters.
What if you could do all of it? That'd be great, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you got to be unique. And, we're always trying to do different things here. And like we have a kudos awards and a Slack channel with kudo points that's every day with our core values are hashtagged and what points get assigned. And we do quarterly winners that get a big award that's sent to them, and they're called out at the company meetings and stuff like that. So we're always trying to come up with new ways to, make people feel good about what they're doing, and they're recognized for it. Paid time off, all that good stuff. So I love it. I guess, I want to spend a few minutes, maybe transition marketing that you've done that's been successful. It sounds like you've done maybe some unique guerrilla marketing. And I wanted to see like what are some of the stuff you've done in the past that's worked well for you guys?
I would love to say that this is just me being a genius, but it's not. I'm a member of, a couple different, national marketing groups, and like I'm in Great Legal Marketing with Ben Glass.
Yeah, I'll be at the event this October.
Oh yeah, in Arizona. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been with him since like 2009. So I'm a longtime mastermind member with Ben. But that's like flying from Seattle to Virginia 3 times a year. And so I set up a local mastermind group where I got, in fact, a lot of my competitors. I've got like 3 or 4 other PI guys that are in my market, and then just any other kind of small business entrepreneurs that I could find that wanted to engage. And so in our last meeting, it was actually a chiropractor who told me that, like, hey, well, what we've done in the past, we go to apartment complexes and we'll host like a barbecue, and then we'll do like a spinal screening, and we'll wind up getting a host of new patients that way. And so basically I took his idea and ran with it. So we've set up a series of summer barbecues where we find the biggest apartment complexes that are near, geographically near our offices. We've got 4 offices, so we've got some, geography to cover. And what we do is we offer to the apartment complex to host a barbecue. So we pay for everything, we bring everything, we set up everything, we cook everything, and then we clean up everything. And they advertise it to their apartment community. And then the people show up on the Saturday between noon and 3. And as they're going through our line and getting their food, we also introduce them to us and just kind of make a pitch. Now, obviously, our pitch is very different than the chiropractic pitch because most people haven't just been in a car accident. If they have, that'd be great. But
yeah,
that's not really why we're doing it. And so what we set up was, we call it our VIP program. And so essentially we give them like kind of like a credit card-y sort of thing that's got a unique identifier on it. And we offer certain privileges if you're part of our VIP program. So we do free notary service. We do free consumer contract review. So like if you're joining a gym or, you're doing something where they stick a contract in your face and you want a lawyer to look at it, I'll do that. I do a free insurance policy review for anybody. So I'll go through their policy and tell them, have a little conversation about their finances and tell them kind of where they're lacking. And then the biggest one is I offer free 30-minute consultation on any legal issue. And so the way I pitch it to them is like, look, how many times have you wanted to ask a lawyer a question, but you don't want to spend the $400?
Yeah.
And, everybody's like, well, yeah, of course that's happened. And I'm like, well, now's your chance. You give me your name, phone number, email address. You're a member of our VIP program. You call up and you get free 30 minutes with Jason whenever you want. It's very successful for us to grow our list and give them, something that they can take home and keep with them, hopefully, so that if they ever do have an issue, we're top of mind for whatever their legal issue is. I want to be, as a transactional attorney where you've got to have a car accident or something similar for me to be able to help.
Yeah.
Most people aren't going to have that issue, but they're going to have something. And I've got a pretty large network of people that I know. And I'm not really interested in referral fees. So I don't refer cases out to other lawyers and try and take a piece of the money. But I definitely want to make sure that, everybody kind of gets the right help they need. And so I would rather be kind of the clearinghouse of getting people to the right attorneys than have them just, get on Google and choose some idiot somewhere that's going to, put them in a worse spot.
Yeah, that's nice. You're like the connector. Like they have a question, you go, hey, I know a little bit about that, but you should talk to this person. Or
exactly.
So, and then meanwhile, they know how you help people. So hopefully a friend, family member that they have has some kind of personal injury issue.
Yeah. That's the idea, is they're going to stay on our list and they're going to keep getting my stuff, reminding them, once a month or whatever, like, hey, we do car wrecks or, we do injury cases. So we'll stay top of mind that way. But then in the meantime, what I found is that most of the people that call me with a non-injury case don't really know exactly what their issue is. And so that 30-minute call where I kind of ask them the questions and kind of poke around the edges, I'm able to define their problem for them. Like, okay, here's the actual problem you have. It's this, and kind of really narrow it down to the elevator pitch, and then that way we can help find the right person for them.
That's really cool, right there, man. And how long have you guys been doing these things?
So the barbecue program is new. We did our first one last Saturday, and we're about to do our second one this Saturday. But we've been doing that VIP program for a few years. I spend a lot of my time definitely talking to people and working them through issues that are things that we're never ever going to be able to help with. But it's really cool because my kids, so I obviously with cell phones and stuff, you don't have to be in the office all the time, right? So so my kids will hear these calls I have with people all the time, and just being the guy that like actually just really helps people get to the next step with whatever they're dealing with and help them kind of clarify their problems and stuff. In a way, I mean, now my kids are older teenagers, so I'm not really a hero anymore, but in a way, position me as, like, hey, my dad's actually helping people and, doing good stuff for the community, even when there's nothing directly in it for him.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a great message as a father to send to people that, we're privileged, we're born in the right place at the right time. And I was given a lot of tools. And so it's my pleasure to kind of try and lift everybody up along with me.
I love it, man. That's a really cool concept and what you're doing there. And yeah, it'll get back to like what your partner was trying to do in the beginning. I just want to do good work, and then it'll lead to work. It definitely will have that effect for sure. Just doing good things. I love talking to people about business. Actually, I got I got a few right now, solo lawyers that still work at firms, and they're like 6 months, a year out from even quitting. Mm-hmm. And so I talk to them all the time and just like, well, here's what you need to do this and that. And they're not even a fit for us. I mean, they're, it's not like they could be a client of ours maybe one day, but they reach out to me anyway. And then I talk them through like, here's how to prepare. Have you thought about this? How are you going to get clients?
Yeah.
So that's cool. I love doing that myself.
Yeah. So. Positioning yourself as the wise man on the mountain it's a good place to be.
And, like this podcast, I get to talk to you and owners and other leaders and just learn live while I'm recording for my own show and content. And so you don't really, there's so many more benefits there, just talking through this stuff and learning along the way. So, yeah,
speaking of which, my staff just told me today, my marketing team, they're like, hey, we're going to start a podcast that you're going to host, Jason. We're just going to put it on your calendar and you're just going to have to do it. And so, yeah, what do you think? Do you have thoughts? Give me the top 5 things that you wish you knew then that you know now.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. When we started, we just on kind of like your staff starting, you were just like, we're going to do this and just kind of half-assed it and didn't even really have we didn't know how to get it on a podcast platform. It was like a YouTube video that would go up. And we call it a podcast. Like you met Matt that popped on a minute ago. Now we have a full-blown like production team and company and social media and all that stuff. When we started it was just like, hey, minimal viable product. Let's just start doing it because you're not going to like your voice and let's not try to figure it all out perfectly. But I think you definitely have to like, what's the goal? Like if I'm going to do this every week, what am I trying to accomplish? Who's my audience? For me, it was, I wanted to have lawyers on to talk about business and entrepreneurship. And didn't really have too many goals laid out. So first off, it's like, what's the content going to be focused for? Is it going to be towards people that need help, that have been in accidents, or is it to try to build your referral networks within the legal community, other lawyers around the state? What do you want that to be? I think that's first and foremost.
Yeah, that's the Yogi Berra, right? If you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there.
Yeah, so because it could be just you, a talking head, if you get in a car accident, this is what you do.
Nobody wants that. Whatever. Nobody wants to see me for a half hour.
Yeah. And I didn't want to, I wanted to like have other people to have a conversation. And in my case, obviously, easy to show like lawyers are my client, have lawyers on my show. Let them talk about themselves and why Jason's kick-ass and all the cool things. But what I didn't really understand was all the extra benefits that I've gotten from it. Referrals. Sometimes my guests become a client. Pretty rare. It's not why I'm here. That was, I think, our first thought, and it's just not where my head's at usually. And then learning how to run a business better from people that run a business better. And that's just been, and then again, network effect. And yeah, Ben Glass has been on, and I'm going to GLM, and there's all these like network effects. So that now is kind of why we do this. So I think, think about that for yourself. Like, how does that fit into what you're trying to accomplish? Other than maybe you're just trying to get the message out to people to help them with free information. I think that's fine. But just think about where you want to take it. If it's something you want to monetize, or if it's just something you want to have like as information for people you can send to. Hey, check out this episode I recorded because you had a question on this. On this episode, I talked about that. And then it's a resource for people too.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. I mean, I think that that echoes kind of what my thoughts were when my staff was talking to me about it. It's like, well, what are we doing this for? Like, what are we trying to accomplish here? And I think, yeah, that's the first step for sure.
You could, so you're in Seattle. I'm in Virginia, almost as far away as we can get. You could co-host it with other attorneys that are not competitors of yours that you get on and talk real deal stuff. You could have 3 or 4. You could do like a panel kind of style. So there's a lot of things I think you do. Or it could be attorneys around the country, bend glass, like, choose some cool people that, people would show up for that have big lists as well. Get that thing running,
That's a great idea. Yeah, maybe we should get a bunch of attorneys on and we should talk about drugs and conspiracy theories and be the new Joe Rogan.
Yeah, that could work. That could work.
We'll give it a shot. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I just, I do have attorneys that I know that, like divorce attorneys specifically, where they literally just go into like issues surrounding divorce, people that have gone through divorce and people that are, about to go through, so those seem to work well, but the divorce is not like I just got hit by a truck. It's thought about for a long time. It's something that's maybe you're planning to do, but you haven't told anybody. I don't know. So I can see where those work a little bit better, and they actually do get a lot of clients from it.
Yeah.
But you also have to be in the right state, and you can't really control like who sees this on social media and what state they're in. So I don't know. Yeah, something to think about for sure. I think there's definitely opportunities out there. I don't think everyone does it right. I think most people they think everyone's going to want to listen to what they're talking about, and I don't think those go very far typically, unless.
Yeah. I mean, I would. My gut is that nobody wants to hear me or frankly anybody else talk about car accidents all that much, because frankly, even when you've been in one, you don't want to think about it anyways. And so my thought process was more kind of like a thought leader sort of podcast, or, personal branding, and just kind of, but not necessarily about the practice.
Actually, here's what I would do if I were you. Maybe one thing to think about. So I used to be a local marketing company. And so all my clients were in my city. And so if I was doing that again, then I would have a show all about my town, my city. And I would just be the sponsor of it, and they would know about my company through listening to it. Oh, hey, by the way, I'm Kevin, and we help businesses grow through marketing, websites. If you need that kind of stuff, cool. Now on to the show. And then, you bring on business leaders, local business people, restaurant owners, and just like talk about why we love and what's going on with the town, the area. And so you want local population to want to listen to the podcast. You want to, what would they care about? And then again, it's just your platform. So it's just like if you as a PI attorney, you sponsored the local radio studio, right? It's not you talking about car accidents, but it's you own it, right? You bought the platform.
Right.
So I would do something like that. You care about your area, it, you're from there. I would do that. That would ultimately lead to hopefully clients calling and saying, "Hey, I love your podcast," and they know what you do. I would do that.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I'll send you a check. I mean, yeah, I think that
as long as it's a monthly check would be good.
One time it's gonna be like $3, but no, I mean, I think featuring other people who are doing cool stuff is a easier way to go. Because I mean, my parents passed a couple years ago, and I think now that they're gone, I don't think anybody is really interested in hearing much from me and about what I'm doing anymore, because it's like, I'm just not that interesting, and I'm not that, it's not that type of business. But featuring other people is a cool way to go. So definitely, I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's I mean, some of the reason mine does well is I feature other people. I'm kind of like the secondary, right? And so, but yeah, I mean, like, what's the name of your town that you're in right now?
Bellevue.
So you're like, all right, the 5 most recent opening restaurants in Bellevue, and I brought on the owners to talk about why you should go to their restaurant or something like that. Like, people would tune in locally to be like, oh shit, let me see what's going on the street here. I live in Virginia Beach, just, awesome place here. And, this new place just opened up, or, hey, did you hear about this? Or, so just local things that people would be generally interested in. If you built a following of local people and they know what you do, it's just the same thing as having a billboard or radio, but you're you're actually bringing them something of value versus just an advertisement.
Yeah, no, it's great. Fun anecdote. The only time in my life I pulled a hamstring was doing sprints on the sand in Virginia Beach. That's my fond memory of Virginia Beach. I was doing a sand sprint, and all of a sudden I hurt and felt pop, and I was like, oh shit. And
you've been to Virginia Beach? All right, that's cool.
Yeah, just once, and that's my memory that I took away from it.
Well, I'm glad we could leave you with that. Yeah, sand soccer. We have a sand soccer competition here.
Oh.
So Virginia Beach is a resort town on the ocean front. You've been here. So we're on the ocean and we have bays, and so it's similar to Seattle, but water's everything here. But we have tons of big events, concerts. I mean, you name it. Sand soccer is our most profitable week in the city. So,
wow. Did you know that pickleball was invented in Bainbridge Island, Washington? And we've got apparently in Bellevue, they just built some professional pickleball facilities where they're hosting some tournament that, pro pickleball. Who knew that was a thing, but apparently it is.
Pickleball is going crazy. So my gym, they converted all the basketball courts, and it's just pickleball every day, with 20 courts, all there's tennis courts. So now they're all pickleball courts. And by the way, you can get 4 pickleball courts out of a tennis court.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think that if we were going to start over and go into a different business, I think I'd go into orthopedic surgery, because I think the amount of blown out ACLs that we're going to see coming from everybody embracing pickleball is going to be high.
There's competitive cornhole. I don't know how curling's even a thing on the Olympics. That doesn't make any sense to me, but whatever. Pickleball should be in there. Well, dude, I appreciate it. This was cool. I had a lot of fun. Everyone, if you're tuning out, we appreciate you tuning in. And Jason's got some really cool stuff. Definitely check him out, connect with him, and I'm sure he's happy to share what he's done with the 4-day work week and all that good stuff, and definitely EOS and stuff like that too. So we appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you on the next episode.
Thank you.